Thank you very much for a kind invitation to this wonderful place here, and it's my pleasure to talk about innovation. Now, how can I come to talk about innovation? Well, I talk about innovation because I was invited to talk about it. And actually, to tell you the truth, this is my very first time I talk about it, and even think about it as something we must have some ideas. Now, innovation. Everybody talks about, all want it, we all want innovation. Now, what is the innovation? What is it really? And if we look, for example, at Webster Dictionary, the first thing is a sort of a circular definition. And not very enlightening, but it says make changes in something established, especially by introducing new methods, ideas, or products. So that is probably getting at the heart of this phenomenon of innovation. Now, innovation has really two aspects. One is to get an innovation. What can we do for groups of people to be innovative? But the second question is, what can organizations do with innovation, and how can they really use them and make products and money out of innovation? And what you will see in my lecture is that these are very different aspects, and you will also see how many times the biggest opportunities fail to be taken into good use. What innovation? What is innovation? Then you say the transistor, the computer, the airplane, of course, electric car. What else? You name it. Some keywords come to mind when I ask what innovation, and they are of this sort. So surely all what I've written down here have been or are innovations. But then if we look at some other things, what about automobile, digital camera, IC chip? Things that are here and the first innovative push has passed. What about the car today? Is this innovative? What about the computer chip today? Is this innovative? I see some say no with their body language. So there are some innovations you would immediately say yes, and some you would say hesitantly no. Oh, here something doesn't work. Oh, my picture aren't showing. Actually, I am following here Ralph E. Gomery, the director of IBM Research from the years 1968 to 1989, and he made an important point. Having the IBM Research Division, and so being really the innovator, Mr. Innovation for IBM. And he says there are two kinds of innovations, and one should really be aware of that. One kind he called a ladder. This is like rungs, and you take one after the other and one jump after the other jump. But there is another innovation he called turning the crank. It's a product innovation. It is existing product, making it better, iterate on it time after time. And so we should not prematurely dismiss this activity, which actually is the key activity which, for example, leads to this Moore's law phenomenon of exponential growth in computing. Why? The engineers are just getting better, 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 and making it better every generation. Now, lots of engineering, lots of new innovations go into this process. This isn't coming from nothing, not at all. And so if we have this picture of the ladder with the jumps and the crank turning, then we have really some appreciation of how we should look at this in an industrial context. Now there are some theories about this. There are some theory about the innovative process and what innovations are and who drives innovations and how innovations diffuse in society. Now the one thing here Engelberger says that there are only three things really to get the innovation: a recognized need, competent people with relevant technology, and financial support. Now these are three things which are surely good observations, and we must keep them in mind. Now another management guru is Peter Drucker, a very famous management theorist. He says that the sources of innovations are changes in industrial structure, changes in market structure, change in local and global demographics, in human perception, mood and meaning, and in the amount of already available scientific knowledge. So Drucker puts his emphasis more on the phenomenon that for innovation there must be some climate of change, societal change, allowing then the innovation to really be made, and always in the back of the mind being in a sort of products diffuse into products and being adopted and, of course, making a business and money. And then Eric van Hippel makes another distinction, which is push or pull. Now there is a lot of phenomenon when things come, new things. Are these things which are really pulled by the market, or are these pushed by technology? Now, von Hippel is of the opinion that market pull is the most important phenomenon. And he may be right. But from the market pull, new things cannot come either, always. What do you know what you need? What do you know what you want? When you see it, you want it. So I am somewhat critical of the opinion of von Hippel, and I say both of these forces are in the innovative process. And both are important. Some technologies are just coming from the laboratory. People think, what can I do with it? What is it good for? What can I, oh, we can make this, we can give this. This must be something people want. And other things come really from the fact that such a thing like communicating with a handphone is certainly a need that public really wants. And the handphone is actually one of the most successful, innovative technological products. So I am very sorry for this unfortunate interruption here. It may be indeed, as Stas says, you know, some Microsoft conspiracy against the people giving lectures in beautiful auditorium. To this slide, there is also the theory by Everett Rogers about the diffusion of innovation in society. And he says, that each innovative idea follows a logistic curve, having a time of early adopters of the idea, early majority. Now we make it now, okay. So we are having the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, late majority, and laggards. The people in the end, the last one to take an innovation. And so if such an innovation is really at this point, its diffusion into society is completed. And the whole progress of innovation is then seized at a cascading a sequence of such logistic curves, one after the other. So the next one comes and have its innovators, early adopters, and so forth. And this is a fairly well-known terminology, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in talking about the stages of an innovation in its realization in the product cycle. Push and pull I've talked about. There are some management methods for innovation. And I'm not going to talk about them very much, because I frankly tell you, I not think much of it. There is lots of words here which are more like the bookkeeping methodologies. So there are no good management methodologies for innovation. That's my point and my opinion. It's a very highly stated opinion, and I am sure some people would violently disagree with me, and I would enjoy that. I have here some of the names. One is even a Russian theoretician, Genrich Altshuler, which is a theory of inventive problem solving, which has this diagram I show at the bottom. One which may be somewhat interesting is this morphological analysis, which is by a Swiss astronomer Zwicky, who had some very good contribution to neutron stars and was thinking about the innovative process. And he has this methodology he calls morphology. And what it is simply saying this. Normally, engineers use the method of isolation into parts and solving in the parts. It's reductionism in principle. So I must have a system in components. I solve the components and I then reassemble the components. Now, Zwicky says in order to get innovative new solutions to problems, get away with the components. Put in questions every single one, question whether it is needed, and then put it back. Not take it out and solve it in isolation, but have the whole assembly of different dimensions and questions each one, take each one away. Can I do without? Can I do without wheels in a car? Can I do without battery? Why is there a battery? This way of questioning, why am I using a screw here? Why not glue? So each one, and always having the whole together in the picture. This is what he says with morphology, and I think this is a good thing to know. This is something one should more often practice. There is one thing people know is brainstorming. Come together and everybody can say, and we not say no very quickly. That is called brainstorming. And this is sort of brainstorming a little bit organized. And always saying the whole picture stays, the variables are not taken away. I'm not breaking it down. I'm just questioning each one of the dimensions. Now I talked about this innovation theory, which is really more about how the things diffuse, how they are created and how they are productized. Now I'm asking, who is the inventor? Who is he anyhow? Now two people, who is the inventor? Now why would you say the man on the right is the inventor? Why is not the man on the left the inventor? I know everybody, now unfortunately you know the man on the right. I should have had this gesture with another person to make the point. But why would we, with this, why do we love this picture so much from the #1 icon genius in the world? It is this, I think. Invention, innovations, novel insights create mostly in playful mood. Playful mood is, again, as I said, questioning why is it, why we don't do this, why, or you cannot do this. You cannot do it. There is Clarke's law, which says if an elderly scientist, well established in his field with gray hair, says something can be done, then believe him, it most certainly can. But if the same gentleman tells you with great insight that it cannot be done, don't trust him. So this playful thing, don't trust anybody. Now, one of the biggest innovative things I was close to, not mine, was the raster tunnel microscope. It has led to Nobel Prize in the laboratory. I had the good fortune to be the director. Innovator is Georg Binnig. No, they say, oh, there is the tunneling. Tunneling has a very non-linear current. So if you have a tip and there is a tunneling current, no, one couldn't really do a tunneling current. And what is a tip anyway? You know, if you think of atoms and then a tip is looking like some very ugly boulder of stone. So how can you say you make a tip and a tunneling current? The tunneling current is very small, you cannot work with it. You cannot do, the tunneling current is something for theory. No, they say the tunneling current is very non-linear with distance, and we could make a servo and have the tip always hover the same distance over the surface of my crystal lattice. Now this is something an expert will clearly declare as being impossible to do. And it is clearly something playful individuals say, let us try it, why don't we do it? What would be needed to do it? And they did it with the biggest success. And that is what is typical, that is what's so typical about this gesture here. This is what I have already talked about now. The innovative individuals are even more neotenic than the normal human being is anyway, and let them be. The public view of the innovator has a very well-known character. He is Mr. Düsentrieb. in German, I don't know the English. He is a character out of the panopticon of Mr. Disney's world. And he is a perennial innovator. And that's how the public sees the innovator. And is this so wrong? In light of what I have been discussing, this is a fairly adequate perception of him. This playful, chaotic guy who does impossible things and tinkers around with things. Now, what are the methods? I think the methods is already coming out of my talk. Now, people are in organizations, and organizations want to be innovative and want to have the innovators. What can they do? What can they do? Number one, there are some individuals are very different from others. Recognize them and give them some extra rules. Not everybody is equal, and it is this stupid management practice that we must treat everybody fair, which means everybody is the same. Everybody is not the same. If you recognize somebody as an innovative individual, you must give him some playground for the mind to wander. Do that. And thirdly, an organization must be open to the outside world. You cannot be innovative and closed. So one of the good measures and also one of the good things to look for is this organization participating in the international scientific enterprise, or are they closed? Are they saying, no, not in my shop? Or are they saying, let's go and look who is better and why is anybody better? And other organizations are of the makeup that we are the best and let not anybody look into our shop because they're stealing anyhow our best and we are the best and we are the best. And they say it's a long time until there are some others already there. So really leadership of these people, you don't have to be always kind. This is another wrong misconception that the innovators must always be treated so kindly. They don't, but they respect the most technically competent leaders. Give them a technically competent leader, that's fine. Steve Jobs is the ultimate unpleasant manager. He was very unpleasant. He was blatantly unfair to people. But he was highly respected and able to get the most innovative team sizzling and boiling. Why? He was himself living an innovative spirit. And this creates an innovative team. Now I want to look at this process in industry. I give you some example and case studies now, which should be somewhat entertainment, but also interesting to listen. IBM. I joined IBM 1968, my first job. And this was the glamour of companies. Always number one in management, number one in business, number one in computers, number one in science and technology. It was an icon of a company. And indeed, its success is the fruit of extremely great innovations. The first one being the following innovation. IBM realized that the computer 1950 is not only for making weapon systems, but could be something very important for the business. At that point, the business had something called Hollerith machines, which are punched cards being read and sorted with electromechanical devices. And the 604 electronic computer is the very first machine which was sold to the business community. And that made IBM the IBM. They had a second absolutely stunning innovative success is the introduction of the 360 line of computers. That was at a time when the computer was this computer and this computer and this computer. They had all numbers in the IBM realm of things. And different so-called architecture. If you could do the 7090 computer, you couldn't do the 604 or this or this. And then came this idea. Can we build a family of computers? All have the same instruction set, the same organization. And can this be done from a very low-end machines to the biggest one we can build? And this is an extremely daring, extremely difficult idea. Again, one where expert would say, no, we cannot do that. And this was the 360, and that was the second launch of IBM as the IBM it became. And there are other great innovations out of this company. And then there are some absolutely dismal failures. I was 1974 in the San Jose Research Center. And there was a man there, Ted Cott, inventor of relational databases. And here something monumental was a monumental innovation. IBM had some information management system which so-called hierarchical, and they were very complicated machines. And here comes a man and says it's data is relations. We can formalize them as a relation, and we can make an access to them and organize these relations in efficient manners. He is in the IBM research division. And he, like every innovator, was burning, sizzling to make this product which he has the vision and which makes millions, millions, millions. And he couldn't. We have this product, and how does it relate to that, and this is good, and why we cannot have the resources for two, and the marketing, and the customer doesn't want, and this is what he had to hear. Now I write here what comes out of it. Oracle, 35 billion annual turnover 2011, and IBM surely would have had a need for that money. Photo inkjet printers. The whole business invented in San Jose too. But the biggest mistake is the workstation. This man is John Cock, one of those innovators IBM had. John Cox, playful as innovators are, said all these complex instruction set computers are for the birds. Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Why is an instruction taking 700 cycles of the clock? I want a computer where every instruction of the clock is, every cycle of the clock is an instruction, period. And all this complexity, do away with it, forget it. And this was a birth minute of the RISC architecture. And then we people in IBM Research built this RISC machine. We called it the 801. And we built the machine up to the fact that it's finished. It is the nucleus of what was called the workstation or server architecture. And IBM doesn't take it. Doesn't take it. The wisdom, this machine is up to 100 times better in price performance. It would eat away our cash cow mainframe, we're not going to cannibalize ourselves. Now, if you will be eaten, shouldn't you cannibalize yourself? Then comes sun, spark, and the whole notion, public impression of distributed system. And now mainframe is dead. It wasn't, but the perception is enough to really turn a market. And it turned IBM upside down. IBM was at the silk hair of bankruptcy. Now this was a really costly miss of an innovation. This is the Carlson patent. Does anybody know what the Carlson patent is? What machine it does? Can we see from this picture? Really hardly, really hardly. If I would look at this picture and must guess, I couldn't guess it either. This is the patent for electrophotography called Xerox, xerography. Carlson is an inventor. And like every inventor, he looking for somebody taking his invention. And that is sometimes a very tough process. Carlson found this man, Joseph C. Wilson. Do you know Haloid Company? You shouldn't know Haloid Company. It was a medium-sized chemical supplier in Rochester of the big yellow giant, Kodak. So it's a chemical company doing photographic chemicals and supply chain of the big photographic chemical complex in Rochester. Wilson had a chief technical officer who said, this is what we must do. We must get out of competition with yellow, and this is it. And this man, Wilson, spent every dollar he could and every management minute he had on the development of the Xerox process, which was hideously tough to do, very tough. But he not give up. And he succeeded beyond dreams. 1959 they had the machine, and not only did he make the technical development, he had an absolutely brilliant business innovation. I'm not going to sell this machine. I give it away. The customer pays for each copy. This is by no means trivial. This is genial. Why? This machine was fairly expensive. To buy it, you must go to such level of management. But not to buy it and pay for the copy. Every middle management can say, yes, yes, we have this and this money, we do the copy. And it was phenomenal. It was just beyond any dream. This company was growing exponentially with a big factor every year. One of the biggest successes and the patent, one of the best patents ever in terms of protecting this industry, because nobody could come in with any electrophotography during the lifetime of the patent. Now comes Act 2. Chairman is Peter McCulloch. Xerox company is very big. He wants to do it again. And he says, what we need now is an information, an architecture for information. And he had founded the Palo Alto Research Center. And in this Palo Alto Research Center, 1900, in the 70s, all inventions which made up the modern PC were made. WYSIWYG, fonts, laser printer, local area network, bitmap display, the personal computer as such, icons, and all of this. The mouse and point and move paradigm. And Xerox didn't make a penny out of it. Apple took it. Apple had a rough start, not an easy one. And then the second thief was Mr. Gates, and he took it and brought out Windows 3.1, which was then the launch of that idea 5 years later. What went wrong? Mr. Kalach had a vision. We cannot call him not visionary. We cannot call him stupid. We shouldn't call him just look at his stock options. None of this would be fair by any margin. What happened is that the Japanese invented the personal printer, no longer selling copies but selling printers, and these personal printers were eating the soft belly of Xerox. First they're laughing and then they are eaten. And then all of a sudden this man can only fight the battle for survival and cannot do this what is necessary for the introduction of a new innovation like his predecessor. So elephants don't jump. Occasionally they do. And when they do, it really means a man at the top who is committed, 100%. If they don't have it, they don't jump. But they turn the crank very well. Let's not say they are no good. This is not my meaning. This is not what I say. What they do with their planning process admirably is making their product iteration cycle. So in the view of Gomory, this is really the turning of the crank innovation, which they are doing very well. And now we come to the not so big company. If elephants don't jump, fleas sure do. So who should make the ladder jumps? The small company must do it. Now the current vision today is the small company will save the world now. The bigs we have now seen can't do it. They can't do it, they can't do it, they can't do it. The smalls will do it. We must do startups, spin-offs. We must get the ideas out in the business. And indeed, a startup company is a group of people completely driven around an innovation. Otherwise, they would fail. So their success completely depends on their motivation to do that. This is not the case in big companies. People are employed, have security, they have ideas of fighting amongst group, etc. If they do it, they are already dead. Now, what is a capital need? And here we must look a little bit in order to understand the role of the small one. Certainly the capital need is the capital of human capital and the cost of the human capital. That's a minimum price. Some innovations need mainly human capital. And these are the ones where the startups, the spin-offs, the group of people can indeed do this famous garage startup on their own. but some innovation, and now we must be a little careful in the euphoria about the startup, need more. If I want innovation in semiconductors, if I want innovation in photovoltaic, if I want general high-tech innovation, I need capital investment into laboratories and equipment which are far in excess of the first group of possibilities. And here we must be careful not to think that all can come from the startup. All cannot come. And we must now make a mixture of, and now if the big companies don't do it, it must be the state laboratory doing some role in the innovation process. Actually, Xerox research gave the ideas to Apple. IBM research gave the idea to Oracle. These ideas all came from big laboratories. They were taken up by small or big, whoever has a possibility to really get the process going. And the startup company is an innovator, but also a market mechanism to get things into the market. That's the lesson. Case study Apple. This is the extreme purest case study of two guys having no money but his father's small mid-gift, starting literally in a garage. You know, getting the bootstrap financially up to a point only later that some investor came into the play. Then bootstrap them some more up, they going into a sort of a public offering. This is the absolutely purest of the startup success stories. But if we look at another one, Cisco. Here the technology comes from the networking groups in Stanford in Berkeley University. So all this kind of software research was done, and then some people from the computing center actually had the idea, gee, isn't this a product? And then some investor, which is Sequoia Capital Ventures, a very big capital venture firm, that took them and launched them, and surely Cisco is from a money-making point of view and a similar story as the Xerox. But here the point is, this came out of the university environment and wouldn't have happened in the garage. So the role of the state is one to be played. And the first theory of this comes from Francis Bacon, who had the model state, money, science, technology, wealth. And his example was Vasco da Gama sailing to the West Indies and stealing the gold of the Incas. And he said the state must have invested into all the maps and ships for Vasco da Gama for him to be able to sail. Now it is not today's environment, but this is really the philosophy that he said there are some common goods which the state must provide for innovative processes to be able to function later. Now, is this really so? Some modern theorists of market economy say no. Innovation would happen anyway. The steam engine wasn't invented because of thermodynamics. It's the other way around. Physicists got the idea what to do physics when they saw the steam engine, and that has really a good value, truth value. But still this is not the whole story, and I have already made the examples before. Here I have what states are spending, and these red states are the biggest spender per capita. In absolute terms, we are having Russia also under the big spender of R&D. So here we see bigger than 2% of GDP, absolute spending, and per capita spending. Does it matter? Do we see these states which you have seen in the foils as being in the innovative category? Yes, it matters. I'm sure it matters. And there is a correlation between some measure of innovation like patents and so forth and input from the per capita spending on R&D of the state. And so it is necessary, despite extreme market philosophies. And it's necessary because some things can't be done by the startup. It can also be wasted, and it's easily wasted, and unfortunately lots of it is wasted. And we haven't found the philosopher's stone how to do the state spending in the best way. Actually, some states are considered high innovative states. Other states are just viewed at not so innovative. For a long time, Japan was not so innovative, up to a point when it became innovative and the envy of the world. Today, China has a very large input. It's not considered very innovative. Surely the United States is considered very innovative. And now if we think about what are now the underlying societal factors, I would say this correlates with the belief in authority, negatively correlates. The American student is very obnoxious student. He challenges the professor, he asks nasty questions, he points out any small mistakes and he says no. People in IBM were very challenging to the management. They not believe them by default. They're fighting, but then okay, in the end they do. But it's a culture of contradicting. Now the Chinese culture, which I am now immersed in and which is interesting for me to be in the East, is the exact contrary. They really believe in hierarchy and they respect and believe in authority. And now we're coming back to the neotenic nature of the innovative individual, and that is now a correlation, and what to do must always take this into account. And I think I am almost at the end. I must come to the end. I have the Fraunhofer model, radical, all kind of ideas. The old model was the companies had their own big laboratories. These were pearls, Bell Labs, IBM Labs, Sarnoff Labs. They did science and made products. This way of doing things, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, it was my way when I was in this business, came to an end. These labs are no longer. They still exist. PARC, IBM Research, still exists. but they do something completely different. Bell Lab is no longer a hotbed of science. IBM is no longer either. So some new model must come in, and the new model is really state money technology, venture funding startup, product going public and being acquired, and the idea of the big companies, more bureaucratic than ever. The CEO no longer wants to do what Wilson did, do the innovation. They buy what they need in terms of the startup, and that is finally when the venture capitalist makes his big cash into funding the innovation in the first place. And so that is a new cycle which we are now seeing operating worldwide. If I look, I have talked for almost an hour now, which is too much. And so I must quickly come to a stop, which is now. Thank you very much.
Question, please. Would you be so kind to explain at what place inside of IBM hierarchy the largest number of innovators were in 60s, 70s? Just let me repeat. I would like to understand in what place in IBM hierarchy innovators, vast majority of innovators in 60s, 80s exist. Just for sure, I explain you the 5-level hierarchy in Soviet institutes. Researcher, first level. Senior researcher, second level. Head of lab, third level. Head of department, fourth level. And head of institute. What is your feelings? What is your historical memory?
Well, let me answer first to the levels you have mentioned. This is fairly normal levels. In IBM research, we had the hierarchies, research staff member, and then there was a first level, second level, and the director of a big group, and then the director of all. So it is about the same, yeah? And the observation is obvious. The innovations are at the bottom. Innovators are the staff members or the first level management, which was not really doing administrative jobs to any large degree. So that is very clear to answer. I may say a little bit more about IBM research, because the leader Gomery had, of course, realized that this research division, which in the end costed $500 million a year, which put them in the Fortune 500 league, so a very expensive thing, must give something to the company. And during my entire time from 1968 until my going out of IBM 1994, there was an increasing awareness of this research division having to contribute. Now, IBM was not optimally set up because they had what was called development division. So IBM had this development division for mainframe, development division for communication controller, development division for System 7, development division for all those things. Yeah? And the people in the development division uniquely made the product, and the researchers were the researchers. And this was a very not optimal situation. Because those doing the development say, oh, these researchers keep off my back. And there is a term not invented here. And how can you push through the not invented here was a very big problem Gomery had to face. Now his solution was to make complicated, complicated joint laboratories and structures involving people from the research and people from the development division, and selling this concept to the higher level of management. And I was the one to live in this complicated structure, and I can only say it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, it was somewhat effective, but not optimal. This was more than you ask, but it was one of the foils I skipped.
Don't you think that this theme, this structure, shows the management fiasco of innovations? Because this organization, this chain, was always in existence. But if we compare quality of innovations originated from companies' labs and innovations originated from startups, I don't know any impressive innovation from startup in comparison with innovation from, mentioned by you, innovation from companies.
You are asking an emotionally difficult question to me, because I am very much inclined to say yes to your observation. I myself have been living through the good time of the IBM research division, and have also had the frustration of such failures. You know, one such failure story which I skipped is the personal story of Gottfried Ungerböck. He is a key international researcher in information theory, and he has invented half of the ingredients we need for the fast transmission over telephone line or space. The other half is Viterbi. So there are two things: trellis-coded modulation and Viterbi algorithm, and Ungerböck is trellis-coded. These two things, if you want to make a photo, these two things are, or you want to make the slide? All right. These two things make really. And Ungerböck, when I was in that group, not yet the head of the laboratory, has actually invented the best modem you can have. 14.4 kilobit per second, which was much faster. They had 9.6 leased line, and Ungerböck had 14.4 switched line. Now the switched line problem is a much harder problem, because when you switch a line, it is each time it looks different to the equalizer. And if you have a leased line, it's always conditioned, and you must equalize only once. And everything was finished. And then we went to the product developers. And then they say, yeah, that's very interesting, very interesting. We can do 9.6. It's for the market. We make a business case. And then we go back some months later to listen to the business case, Ungerböck and me. And then they said, we're very sorry to tell you that we cannot make this a product. The only number we can sell is a few hundred. Ungerböck is exploding. What you say? How many pieces you have? How many millions? Every PC has one. What is the matter with you? Then they say, we made a very good business case. The businesses for leased lines, company networks. Now some of these networks have dial-up line modem for redundancy and for reliability, but only in third world countries. And we looked at the best third world country, which is India, and we looked at all the networks in India, and this is a few hundred modems. Now, what can you say? Ungerberg went to the company Broadcom. Broadcom did all the market. Broadcom now has all the market for cable modems and any modems, but today no longer the telephone line modems, but the cable modems. And that is how some of these things work. I think really I say the same as you say.
More question? And what about your token ring invention? As I understand, it was a development in a research group. It wasn't a startup.
Oh, this is known, my token ring invention. This is a good one. Now, I was a hero of Mr. Gomery, because this, what he called the technology transfer process, did work. Actually, the Zurich laboratory have done all the research and advanced development in terms of discrete component implementation, not chip implementation, of the token ring. And then this was taken up by one of those development groups in America, and they made it a token ring product. And this made it really from the laboratory. So this is the success story. It made $16 billion revenue to IBM, so it was not, of course, a big product for such a double-digit billion company, but it was still a good product. Now it had an unfortunate fate. Its fate and demise is also linked with IBM marketing. They not open up the market like the Ethernet market, and so it does not have gained what is called market penetration. So now token rings no longer are in existence, of course, to my displeasure. But as such, this is one of those success stories Mr. Gomery produced and needed to justify his research division. I can't find it. I do my best. No problem. Sure.
Can I ask a personal question? How did you get your Nobel Prize?
This is something people ask many times, and again here there is the same general answer as I have been given as the tenor of this lecture. The Nobel Prize were coming out of the physics department in the IBM Zurich Research Laboratory. And it was a place where the physicists had reasonably good resources and I would say very big freedom of playing. It was a management which didn't ask these hundred of questions, why are you doing this, why you do this, justify what you are doing, we just let them do it too. We were looking, this is another thing I skipped. We are having the obsession in the state programs for funding research, the obsession up front on knowing exactly what this innovation will be. How many papers and patents and exactly what you do in year 3, month 5 of this project. And you are writing these things which are just for the bin. So I was saying, let's do it differently. Let's have an a posteriori evaluation. The state can give some credit up front and then a researcher or labs build credit by having good results. Because the irony of the thing is today they are looking like crazy up front. and never look what comes out in the end, because it's not allowed to be bad. If it were bad, the bureaucrat who have signed off the proposal would be losing face. So now we have something inhibitive at the beginning and completely arbitrary at the end. I say, let's do it upside down, let's a posteriori, and that's what we did in the lab. We looked in the end of the year about the papers these physicists wrote. We had a hierarchy of journals, and they must have papers in good journals. If they have, it's good. So let them play. That's the answer. And now I
К сожалению, мы должны заканчивать. Новая лекция уже подошла. Поблагодарим профессора Райзера. И на этом мы заканчиваем. Спасибо большое вам всем за участие.